This is DC, powered by people and ideas, where the community comes together, voices are heard, and decisions are shaped.
So I want to start by saying, welcome home.
Connecting you to what matters and to each other.
How you doing? You know, what's the tea?
I'm Lorenzo Hall, and this is the DC Beat. And thank you for joining us for the DC Beat. I'm Lorenzo Hall. It is the day after DC's Democratic primary and special election, and the votes, they're still being counted at this hour. Now, because this is the first election using ranked choice voting, final results, we know, according to the Board of Elections, could take several days. Now, one race we are really watching, as you know, is the race for mayor. As of Wednesday, June 17th, Councilmember Janice Lewis-George is leading the mayoral race with just over 52% of the vote. Now, former Councilmember Kenya McDuffie is in second here with just over 36%, and you can see a large number of votes already counted at this point. I'm going to try and get closer to the screen there. You can see 73% of the ballots have been counted. They're making progress. Yeah, so with ranked choice voting, again, a candidate needs more than 50% of all votes to win. Let's listen to what they had to say at their watch parties last night.
We got to bring together the rest of DC, right? Not everybody ranked me first, not everybody supported me, but everybody deserves a leader who's going to listen to them and prioritize their issues. And so organizing tomorrow means talking to those organizations, those people, talking to their issues, the business community, the realtor community, people who want to know that I'm going to listen to their concerns and also act in their best interests. It means talking to the residents in all 8 wards about what a People First DC looks like for them, and talking to our government workers who work in the city now to say, how can we improve your work as a DC government worker, and how can we make our city government work better? And so that's where the real organization work happens.
The people of DC run Washington, DC, and we will fight for DC's autonomy every single day of the week. And as the votes are being counted tonight, we respect this process. We respect this process, and we are going to see it through all the way to the end. We're going to make sure that people understand that every single vote is going to be counted. But here's what I already know. The coalition that we built, the conversations that we had, the vision that we put forward about safety, making our city more just, more opportunity rich right here in Washington, D.C., all of that matters. You showed up, and that will never, ever change. The people of Washington, D.C. have showed up in this election like I've never seen before, and for that, I'm thank you to all of you all.
Now, another major race we're following is the contest for D.C. delegate. This was a hot one. So this Wednesday, early return show at-large council member Robert White in the lead with a sizable amount there, and the Associated Press is declaring him the winner. I caught up with him just a few hours ago. How are you feeling?
I'm excited, exhausted.
On what, 2 hours of sleep?
That's right. Yeah. But look, the 2 hours after a victory like that is good. I can go through the rest of the day.
We saw you partying well before. We caught those dance moves on social media.
Hey, look, we were excited. We had reason to dance, and but my wife actually did the playlist, so we put it to good use last night.
So talk to me about the moments before. So you have primary election day. You've been at it for months now. How did you feel walking into the night? What were you thinking?
I had confidence in voters, knowing how serious this time is and what type of leadership we need in Congress. But you don't know until you know. Yeah. And so until the numbers came in almost at 11 p.m., I just had a lot of anxiety. But I was around friends and family. The mood was good, so I felt a lot better when those results came in.
So you still had this anxiety, even though a lot of the polls leading up to Election Day had you leading.
Yes.
A sizable margins.
People, look, I watch the basketball finals. If you don't play to the buzzer, you get caught off guard sometimes. And I want to play to the buzzer. I owe that to residents, so couldn't get overconfident and had to keep working.
Yeah. So why this race? I know we talked about this in the past. You ran for mayor before, you've been on the council. Why did you feel the need to serve as DC's delegate?
If Donald Trump was not president, I don't think I would have run for this seat. It was realizing that there is a real threat to my home city. I grew up in this city. I'm not going to watch it go the way of our golf courses, the way of the Institutes of Peace. DC needs somebody in that seat who is fighting back, who's building allies across the country, and turning this anger and fear into a movement that protects us.
Was there one moment that stood out? I know you mentioned Donald Trump, but what really went off? What was sort of that lightning rod to say, you know what, this is my next chapter. I need to take on this role.
It caught me off guard. I was at church one Sunday and the pastor was talking about being open to God's plan being different than yours. And I thought that has nothing to do with me. And on the way home, my wife out of nowhere said, Robert, you need to think about running for the congressional seat because I'm not sure we're still going to have a mayor or council in 3 years if you don't.
Wow.
And the very next morning, one of my best friends came to my house and said the same thing unexpectedly. And I said, look, when God tells you to pivot, you pivot and don't look back.
So the pastor, then the wife planting the seed.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
So we know in this role, Eleanor Holmes Norton, she's been there for, by the end of this term, it'll be 36 years.
Yes, yes.
How do you take on this role?
So she has been an icon, and because of what Eleanor Holmes Norton has built in that seat, I can build on top of that. She could not have garnered the national support for statehood in a way that we can now because we have a president and Congress that's trying to steal control of Congress through redistricting. So she's built power into that seat. Now I can nationalize it and make sure Democrats across the country understand DC statehood is the path to protecting democracy. Those two senators, that voting member of the House, is more of a shift of power than any of these redistricting voting battles.
Have you heard from the delegate yet, or have you reached out to her?
So not since yesterday.
Okay.
I'm in contact with her team, trying to schedule a time, but we've spoken several times during the campaign. I've never divulged the substance of those conversations, but I'm excited about what's next and work with her in the transition.
If she's watching this right now, what would you say to her?
I'd say thank you. Thank you for holding us down for 36 years and showing people that this seat is a seat without a vote, but it's not a seat without a voice. And she used that voice and she built it into a powerhouse seat. And so the next person has to build that out. We can't lose any ground that she gained for us. We owe it to Congresswoman Norton to build on that and to bring us over the line on statehood.
And I don't think some people understand just how significant, one, this role is, but also to do that job without a vote in Congress.
Without a vote, to have the respect of members of Congress that she had, to have the respect of presidents, to be able to recommend federal judges, one of whom is Ketanji Brown Jackson, that she recommended to the U.S. District Court. She did things in that seat that nobody else could have done, and we benefit from it. So part of the job of the next delegate is to make sure we honor that legacy and make sure people understand how important she's been to the history of this city.
You have a tough road ahead. The job is different now.
Yeah.
You're talking about President Trump. You're also talking about a Congress, Republican lawmakers, who have made it their mission to interfere with the district's affairs. How do you take that on?
Well, look, we're going to interfere in their affairs as well. At 6 o'clock this morning, I was outside writing my notes about how we're going to mobilize from D.C. into those swing states to make sure the people who get elected are people who are going to be allies for D.C. And not adversaries. So where we see swing states with opportunities to shift to somebody who's going to respect the democratic rights of D.C. residents, we're going to go there in the thousands. D.C. is going to play a role in these midterms, and then we're going to demand statehood on the back end.
Can we back up? You said 6 a.m.?
Yes.
You were plotting this out already and planning. Why is that so important? Why do you need to do that right now?
Look, you got to strike while the iron's hot. People are paying attention, and people around D.C. they're excited about this election, but they're wondering, what are we going to do to protect D.C.? Everybody's asking me, what are you going to do on day one to protect D.C.? And what I'm saying to them is, this starts before day one. This starts right now, between now and November. And so if I'm going to tell people we've got to mobilize, then I've got to get to work developing the plan and pulling together the right allies. So today I've been in touch with Democratic leadership, with members of the Senate, with our Attorney General, just working on that plan.
Yeah, you would have to work with the city's next mayor as well.
Yes.
In that relationship.
Yes.
How do you build on that? How do you work with whoever that person may be? We know at this point, Janice Lewis-George is ahead significantly.
Yeah, I think it will be Janice Lewis-George. Whoever wins, I'm going to work with them. But with Janice Lewis-George, that's a person on the council. We don't agree on everything, and we will battle it out. And the second that debate is done, the disagreement is done, and we get back to work. And so that's the type of leadership we need in the city right now. People at the top of all parts of our government working together. We're going to sit down behind closed doors, work through any disagreements, and work as a united front to protect our city.
Yeah, we know that you are still the at-large council member
That's
here in
right.
the district.
That's right.
You still have that role.
Yeah.
In the meantime, so what does that look like in terms of finishing that role, finishing that term, and the work that you want to get done on that level?
I have an ambitious and aggressive legislative agenda for the fall. I have a phenomenal team that makes sure, even if I have to attend to multiple things, that our work is still rolling. And they've shown that. We've shown that through this year. We already have legislation written to introduce in the fall. We have oversight work, so we just have to do two things at once. But I'm from D.C., we're used to it.
That's right. Is there a priority? Is there anything you want to see done before you leave the Wilson building?
There are a few things we need to clean up still on housing, and I want to make sure I get that done. People are paying too much. The conditions of buildings are too poor, and that's not because of one thing. It's because of a few things, and we need to get serious about that. So I have a serious and aggressive plan to address it, and I'm going to work to get that passed before I leave the council.
What do you want to see from your council colleagues? Not just toward the end of your term, but also moving forward as you try to work with them as well to advance DC's agenda.
I want to see us working together, which doesn't mean agreeing on everything. It means that we have to put our best ideas forward. But if the idea that we go with isn't yours, you still have to move with the team, because right now is a time when the city that we love and represent is under threat. So we have to work collaboratively. I also want to see people who are independent minded. No organization that was not elected to office should be telling anybody what their agenda is. The people of DC should be dictating the agenda. And I think people in DC are tired of feeling like they're not the priority. So I want to see people who are going to prioritize residents.
I mean, that's pretty a loaded statement when you talk about the council in that sense and who they're taking the direction from. How do we get to this point, you think?
Look, it's politics, it's campaigns, it's a number of things. But what everybody in DC knows is most of us feel like we're drowning, whether it's folks in the middle of their career like me who are struggling to afford the cost of the housing and childcare and groceries, my nieces and nephews that can't afford to live anywhere in DC, seniors who don't know how they're going to hold on to the end. Everybody is frustrated because they see this small group of people who are thriving, and most of us feel like we're left out in the cold. They're tired of it, and I'm tired of it too. So as government leaders, we need to take it seriously, both in DC with the mayor and the council, but also in Congress. People need government paying attention to those kitchen table issues.
Yeah, so we know this race for DC delegate, it got a bit contentious.
Yeah.
We know that you talked with Brooke Pinto, your primary rival in this race. What is that relationship like? What was that conversation like with her?
Councilmember Pinto called me last night. It was a very gracious call. She congratulated me on a decisive win in a race well run. Democracy only works if people go at it and hash out their ideas. So my intention and understanding is that we're going to work together going forward to protect DC, because we need all hands on deck.
Yeah. All right, so we know that you still have to get to the general election.
Yeah.
After that point, is there any idea of when you would resign from the council? Because we know there's going to have to be a special election for your seat.
Yes, so the new members of Congress are sworn in January.
Okay.
If I'm successful in November, which I expect, I would resign shortly before that.
Okay.
But the DC Democratic Party will appoint someone before the special election to fill my seat. And I'm looking for who I think would be a good person to recommend to the DC Democratic
So you want to play
Party.
a role in that process?
This is my city, and I know what this seat requires, the level of rigor, independence, intellect, and commitment. And I want to know that when there are no cameras on and no one's watching, that you're still going to act in the best interest of the people of the city. And I am intent as a city leader in making sure those are the only kinds of people we have on the council.
What do you want from DC voters? I know a lot, when we talk about politics a lot, people tend to put a lot into politicians or leaders to solve these problems. But What do you need from voters, people who are involved in this process?
Well, two things. One, I'm going to call on DC residents, voters and non-voters, because we have to make sure we are aggressively active in these midterm elections. But in terms of voters, as voters, I want them to continue to expect more. I think they do. But sometimes you get fluff from people running for office and then they get elected and do their own thing or just help the people who supported them. Time for things like that is over. The District of Columbia needs people who are going to represent and support the entire city. That's the change people want to see.
Yeah. And what are you promising voters?
I'm promising hard work and dedication, and that I'm going to have backbone when I need to have backbone. One of the reasons I believe that my numbers were what they were in this election, we got outraised tremendously, 3-1. I was still fundraising the day before Election Day, but we won by that margin because people saw that in the time I've been on the council, I've always put this city first, and that's what they should expect from me going forward.
So what's the response been like? You know, obviously you had a big night. You're you're still trying to catch up and get some rest in. What have you been hearing from your family, from people?
I've gotten hundreds of text messages, well wishes on social media. It's excitement, and people deserve to be excited right now. It's been a tough year and a half for us, and so for folks to feel like there is hope on the horizon is a beautiful thing, and I'm glad that I can bring some hope. But I also hope that people will be a little patient with me in responding, because luckily there's a lot to respond to.
So what's the plan now? Obviously you're done campaigning. What do you do? Obviously you need to catch up on some rest. What's the plan?
For the next week and a half, I still have a lot of work to do, getting the transition in place, moving into the general election, and seeing how I can help races across the country. I promised my girls, as a thank you, I have two young daughters. I'm taking them to Disney World in a couple of weeks as a thank you for their patience in this election.
Yeah. And I want to punctuate something that we talked about off camera and briefly here, recording as well, is that you weren't planning for this. You were ahead in the polls. Yeah. You know, things were looking great on your end, but you didn't start planning and thinking of those next steps until after you saw some of those initial results.
Yeah, I've taken a lot of losses in life. Like I had a rough start, and getting from where I was to where I am, you're going to fall down a few times. And so I've never been one that expects to win. I expect to work hard, and if I ever lose, it's not going to be for lack of work. So I worked through the end, and I'm proud of it.
All right, so Councilmember Brooke Pinto has conceded the Democratic primary race for D.C. delegate. She released this statement today. It reads in part, quote, "My faith in this city remains unshakable. While we did not win this election, I will always work to support safety in every neighborhood, a strong and diverse economy to drive down housing costs, and for control of our own autonomy and government." Now, I should also point out that we heard from Mayor Muriel Bowser's team today. Her allies, well, they are not faring too well right now. Bowser's team told our Rafael Sanchez Cruz they are surprised to see these large margins, especially in the congressional delegate race I just talked about. Councilmember Brooke Pinto, an ally of Bowser, had a major loss to her colleague Robert White. Now, this race didn't even go into a second round of ranked choice candidates. Now, for more on what this means for the future of the city and its political landscape, I caught up with Julius Hobson Jr., an adjunct professor at George Washington University's Graduate School of Political Management. So what do you make of the results so far in this primary election in D.C., particularly the race for mayor?
Well, in the mayor's race, I think two things happened. And both of them were negative for McDuffie. Number one was how he pursued his campaign. It was almost as if he was next in line to be mayor. He had the mayor's people. He met with them a lot, consulted with them over the last couple of years, and did a lot of coffee clatches, meet and greets. Did his fundraising. Where she got out and pressed the flesh and just saw people, which she knew she had to do because this was a citywide race for her. So she got out here and got to know people, and I think that did not happen. The second piece is the Donald Trump backhanded endorsement. When Trump said, was asked the question, he said, well, if she wins, we'll just have to take the district over. Well, that's a backhanded endorsement of McDuffie in this town with the kind of voters that we have. That just wasn't going to work. And actually, I would add a piece to that. Her campaign talked about, the economy and affordability. And the one thing we all have in common is if we've been paying electric bills, last year they jumped.
Yeah.
I mean, mine jumped $100 in a month.
Wow.
A month. So, and he chaired the committee that had oversight, and there was just no way around that. So I think that was part of the problem, and I think that the concept of voters wanting change is no different here than it is around the country.
Yeah. So
And
on that note, you talk about voters wanting change. I'm looking at the two front runners in this race. You have Kenya McDuffie, who's been around for more than a decade, Janice Lewis George, who is a city council member. You know, that sounds like the establishment right there when you talk about wanting change versus those who have been around for quite a while.
well, I didn't see it that way.
Okay.
When I say change, I meant if you wanted continuation of Tony Williams, Fenty, Muriel Bowser, then you wanted McDuffie.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted something different, you wanted her or somebody else.
Right.
And she was the somebody else. And that's the kind of change that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
She also talked about a campaign in terms of people and what she wanted to do for people a lot more and a lot better than he did.
Were you at all surprised by, I guess, you talking about the way McDuffie managed his campaign and how he moved forward, considering he's been involved in a number of races in this city? He's from the district. Are you surprised at how he ran this campaign? It
Yes,
seems
I
to be
am.
a bit inconsistent.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because I know when he was Ward 5 council member, he was my late mother's council member, and he really did a good job. So I was really surprised at how he pursued the campaign. But again, the part about I'm next in line, he tried to run for attorney general the last time, but didn't qualify. Everybody knew that. So then he changes his registration so he can run for the city council at large, and do that. And then he doesn't finish that term, so he resigns so he can run for mayor. There's that kind of inconsistency there. Always looking at the next step up, I think hurt him in that sense. I really expected to see a different kind of campaign than what I saw. The other part of it, which I can't measure because we didn't have any polling for it, is how the campaign turned negative a few weeks ago.
Yeah, wasn't that?
And
Whoa.
it was like somebody flipped the switch.
Yeah.
The first thing I said to my wife was, "He's behind," and my wife said, "Why?" Because he's gone negative.
Yeah.
And then she went negative. Then both of them had super PACs with that dark money, spending money, and then they started attacking him. And some of the hit ads against him were better than his against her. And that's and that didn't help either. We're sort of not used to that kind of campaigning here. We should.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
Yeah, we should, given this the kind of ads that we're seeing in Maryland. I have some friends who live in Maryland and say, I can't wait for your primary to be over because I'm tired of this crap on the television.
I know.
We just don't have a history of that. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah. What does it say when the current mayor, someone who's been in that seat for more than a decade, does not outright endorse someone? She gave a little wink. She said she supports Kenya McDuffie, but it wasn't an official endorsement, if you will.
Exactly. Not only did she not endorse, didn't even, and just gave the wink, but if that was her guy, she would have been out there campaigning for him. Doing ads with him. None of that happened.
Why?
I don't know. That's what I don't understand. I don't know if his polling was that or if his consultants did that. One of the problems with campaigns is when I ran for the school board in 1973, I didn't have any consultants, to tell me what I should think and what I should say. Yeah. And that has become a problem now in campaigns all over the country where people listen to the consultants who tell them what you should say and how you should say it. I think that's a mistake. Yeah. If you don't have a feel for it, then you're not prepared to do this.
So considering where the races stand right now, whether you're talking about the race for mayor, some of these council seats, and also the race for DC delegate. What does this tell you about the electorate and the future of the city? What voters want?
Well, I think what voters want is I think there were more people who wanted the city's leaders to stand up to Trump. And I think those of us who've been in government are not critical, at least I'm not, of how the mayor responded. The president of the United States has more leverage against us than we got against him. Same thing with Congress. So it's a fine line to try to walk to be able to manage the city's government and try to keep the feds out of our pocket. And so I think that's difficult. And I think people wanted that. We just haven't had a president who's just confrontational. We've never had a president like this to treat us in this fashion during the period of home rule. And I think that was a big deal, a big part of how things went. But one of the things I did do, I've gone through at least the data that the Board of Elections has pulled up, because one of the things that said to me was, once again, polling wasn't that good. The polling had it closer, but the polling suggested that she would win white votes in 1, 2, and 3, and he would win in 7 and 8. Well, Ward 3 is the only ward where he's ahead.
Yeah.
And that's by about a little over 450 votes. She's ahead of him in every other ward.
Yeah.
So that said something else. So that's where I threw in the Trump thing, because, having represented Ward 8 on the school board, Trump gets up and says, I'm for the other person. Ward 8 people say, oh, really? And so,
if you weren't paying attention, you heard that.
You heard that.
Yeah.
You heard that. And I think the other parts of the things that have happened is his changing the physical landscape, the reflecting pool, knocking down the east wing, wants to put up an arch. But people who actually live here, and those of us who were born here, just really don't like that on a personal basis. And so I think that was also reflected.
Yeah. So Julius, all the candidates, no matter what race you're talking about here, they all mentioned standing up to Donald Trump in some form.
That's
so
correct.
How do you parse through that and say, oh, okay, I believe you and what you're saying over the other person, even though they are all saying the same thing?
They're all saying the same thing. The only difference is that McDuffie is the person who's next in line behind Muriel Bowser. And so I think that hurt him. He didn't have her endorsement, but her shadow was over his campaign. Yeah. And I think that's what, the others could stand up and say what they said. We'll find out when people get sworn in January just exactly what they're going to do, because it's really different than when you're the one who's looking down that double-barrel shotgun to take over the government.
Yeah.
He said we'll take over the district. He can't do that on his own.
Right.
But on his own, he can make life really miserable.
Right.
And we got National Guard here. We haven't had uniformed people walking the streets here since the Martin Luther King assassination riots in 1968. And that's still something for somebody like me that has a hard time getting used to looking at. I have nothing against the Guard and the members. They're doing their service. But the idea that they're here and also knowing they have no arrest powers, it's like, why?
Yeah.
But these candidates, had to make their campaign promises to sort of help themselves stand out.
Yeah. This new delegate, whoever that may be, at this point, it appears to be Robert White. What do you think his role is? How do you manage Congress? How do you manage the White House? How do you, I guess, continue to advance statehood? And also just keep the pressure off the district, keep that federal pressure off the city?
Well, one of the things that the advantage he has of the candidates who ran for delegate, 2 of them actually worked for Eleanor at one point. Mm-hmm. So they've been, and Robert White is one of them. So they've been there and they understand that. What And I'm assuming it's Robert White because his lead is so big.
Yeah.
Even with ranked choice, I just don't see how.
And Brooke Pinto has conceded. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see how Pinto catches up.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming White wins. His first job is to get to know the Democratic leadership in the House because he's going to be a Democrat, but also try to get to know people on the other side of the aisle, as well as getting to know people on the other side of the Capitol in the Senate. He has to do that. And there's one other thing. Having been chief of staff to the previous delegate, Walter Fauntroy, and having actually done that work in the mayor's office, what I would hope he would do, what I have not seen much of, is the delegate and the mayor working together and in pursuing the district's goals. And we haven't always seen that. And so sometimes we'll see we would see the delegate fighting off stuff and silence from the mayor. Yeah. And on the other hand, the mayor fighting off something and silence from the delegate. So I think that has to happen. They have to work together. And as I said, you have to try to get to know a lot of these people. If the Democrats take the House, and right now my projection is that they will, then the delegate will also be able to vote on the House floor in the committee of the whole, as long as that vote doesn't determine the outcome. So that means he'll be much more involved in the day-to-day business of the House. Yeah. And he'll still have, the usual activities and responsibilities any other member of Congress in terms of serving constituents. But that's what he will have to do, is try to work with people to the best of his ability. If they're in the majority, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, building those relationships. Julius, it is always great to see you.
Same
always
here.
Love your perspective. I appreciate you.
Anytime, same here.
All right, so as of Wednesday, June 17th, preliminary results show former D.C. Shadow Rep Oye Obalewa leading the race for Anita Bonds' at-large council seat. So Bonds held this seat for 13 years and decided not to seek another term. And look who we have with us at the table tonight. Oye Obalewa, good to see you again. Welcome back to the table.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we know the results are still coming in. This is not final, but a good chunk of the votes have been processed and counted already. You're leading this race. I see the big smile. I take it you're feeling great.
Absolutely. It's a great feeling now. Not only are we getting 34% of the vote, we're also leading all 8 wards. So it shows that we are unifying the city, having Ward 8 conversations in Ward 2, having Ward 3 conversations in Ward 7, and mobilizing and activating the district at the same time. How do you feel about where this race stands right now? Did you expect to perform so well? Well, the data showed it. I mean, we had internal numbers, we've been fundraising, we've been, in the lead in so many different ways. We've been off for 7 years, not only doing the work, but also building the relationships. So we're not surprised by where we're at. And knowing that 94% of first place candidates after the first round end up winning the election, we couldn't be any more proud of the results.
All right, so you see these numbers come in late last night. We know that with ranked choice voting, you have to reach 50%.
Correct.
More than 50% to be declared the winner.
Correct.
So what have you been doing with these numbers? Are you looking at some of the candidates, trying to figure out how the math works in your favor? I take it a lot of strategy goes into this at this point, right?
Absolutely. We've been having great relationships with the other candidates. We've been going to different communities, talking to voters, saying that if we're not your first, please make us your second, and really trying to educate our voters not only about our platform, but also ranked choice voting. And I believe that makes a huge difference in this race.
And I think a lot of people are seeing how that plays out right now because there are 9 candidates, 9 in this race, and people didn't quite understand why ranked choice voting was so important and why some candidates would say, make me your number 2. Like, who wants to be a number 2? But in this case, we're going to see how that plays out because as some of the other candidates with lower numbers are eliminated, we'll find out if you're their number 2, and that will give you more of a boost.
Absolutely. When it comes to ranked choice voting, it's all about building a coalition, not just the voters, but also people within the race. And finding folks who are endorsed by labor unions, diasporan groups, community groups, faith groups, really help us build that group. So it's really important for candidates to think outside the box and how they campaign, not mudsling, not saying mean things about each other, not backbite, because at the end of the day, somebody's always listening. And people always pay attention to how you talk, who you talk to, and how they feel at the end of the conversation. We've been really proud of how we conducted ourselves in the last 8 months.
All right, so we know that you were DC Shadow Rep. You spent a lot of time on the Hill.
Yes.
So why did you want to leave the Hill to go to the Wilson Building?
That's such a great question. You know, we fought for DC State not only in Congress, but across the country, but we've been also doing great things in the community as well. Our exposure clinics have helped hundreds of returning citizens get free legal support. Our Capital Business Seminar helped nonprofits get tens of thousands of dollars. And we saw so much impact that we've been trying to do in the city that usually only done by a council member. And some of the people we supported said, hey, there's an open seat, there's opportunities to bring change, we want to see you in that role. So I was almost voluntold, as they said, to run for council at large. And I'm really proud of those folks still continue to support me to this day.
Yeah, so you get in there, you have to work with other council members
Absolutely.
to get anything you want passed. Any council members you love right now that you have a great relationship with? You have to, it's almost like a reality show. You got to start building those alliances right away.
Absolutely, I have a ton of respect for all the council members. You know, there's most of the council members, I have their phone numbers, and other ones we could definitely still work together on. As a shadow representative, you've learned to make relationships and use that soft leverage to bring the change that you want to see. So as an incoming freshman council member, hopefully, you know, I definitely want to use some of the things I've learned there as well as in the pharmacy to really build those relationships and bring the district that people deserve.
So who do you talk to when a race like this? You're talking about, again, being a shadow rep on Capitol Hill. You're working with, you know, Congress. I don't think anyone would love to work with that group as of right now to city council.
For sure.
So this is a much different dynamic.
Absolutely.
How do you try to get some of your priorities passed and through?
Well, number one, we ask folks who inspired me from day one, folks like Ward 1 Councilmember Brandon Doe, who basically introduced me to ANC by accident. I went to my meeting, I was like, you know, I should run for this.
All of this by accident. What's happening here?
Well, none of this was ever planned. You know, it was one duty that became the next one, and we just try to work really hard to build off of that. In terms of just trying to be effective, you know, there's never been an at-large council member who lives in Ward 8. There's never been a healthcare worker or a pharmacist who works on the council. There's never been a child of African immigrants on the council. And it's not just me being on the seat, is all of us being there. So really trying to bring the community approach, bringing that teamwork involved, and also being willing to be that person that people can lean on is something that I wanted to bring forth to that large council space.
Yeah, when it comes to legislation, what's going to be, if you are the one to, you know, exceed 50%?
For sure.
What do you bring to the council? What's your priority?
Well, one thing that we're trying to do is bring jobs back to the district. At a time where DC faces 10%, the highest in unemployment in this country, we had to find ways to bring jobs back here. International development careers, rehire USAID workers, State Department employees, and beyond. Number two, we need to bring programs for young people. At a time when we're divesting $6 million out of DPR in recreation, and putting in DYRS in detention, we're committing policy violence. And we're telling young people.
Policy violence.
That's what yes, policy violence. We're telling young people, we're calling them juveniles, telling them they shouldn't be in the community, and we're investing in their incarceration. We should pipeline them to college, pipeline them into employment, pipeline them into youth sports, the things that we used to do for young people that we're not doing anymore. And that's kind of focus and intentionality I plan on bringing to the council.
Yeah, so we know the youth curfew, that will go into effect at some point. Are you for or against that?
Well, I believe that young people should not be outside. However, I do not believe that curfews work. Data shows that it does not work. And at a time where the White House is planning a summer surge where they're gonna be arresting parents for young people who are violating the curfew, sends people in the wrong direction. If a parent goes to prison, lose their job, lose their homes, then we're not gonna see positive aspects or positive outcomes for young people. And I'm very concerned about our own legislation being weaponized by a White House.
Yeah. What do you make of this race for mayor? Obviously, you've been with us for the duration of the show so far. You see Janice Lewis-George has a commanding lead right now.
For sure.
If she is the eventual winner here, you would have to work with her.
Sure.
What is that relationship like right now? How do you feel about where this race is going?
Well, I'm proud to be endorsed by about 15 organizations that have co-endorsed me and Councilmember Lewis-George.
There, you know. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not just me. It's about the coalition that we've been able to build. And when we have the Working Family Party, when we have labor unions, when we have so many organizations, DC Boards for Animals, at the table at the same time, we get to push legislation that moves DC forward and not just be saddled by special interests.
Yeah. What do you say to voters? I mean, obviously, we talk about politics a lot. I asked Robert White the same question. We put a lot into our leaders, and we have high expectations, but oftentimes people will vote, and then that's it. They sort of back off and expect you to do all the work.
For sure.
What would you need from voters if you are the winner? And you are, you're on the council.
We have to remember that one council member cannot make all the difference. You know, I talked about being a Ward 8 resident, potentially becoming an at-large council member. And the reason why that's so important to me is because we have one council member that lives in Ward 7, one council member that lives in Ward 8, and 11 that live elsewhere. And when you don't walk these streets, when you don't go to the grocery store, when your kids don't go to that neighborhood school, you're kind of removed from that situation. And as someone who lives on this side of the district, I think it's very, very important to remember to bring equity back to the rest of the city. If we do not contain the issues happening in Ward 8, then Ward 6 people are going to feel it. The Ward 5 folks are going to feel it. If we have a hospital that continues to suffer and fall below standards, then we're not going to have strong healthcare system, especially when the RFK Stadium comes to play in 5 years. These are the conversations I plan on having, and I'm really excited to get the ground running and really bring all of us to the table to make that difference. It can't just be one person. It has to be all of us together.
So what's your personality like? Are you planning putting things in place just in case you win, or are you just going to sit back and wait till something becomes official?
Man, I can't even plan next week. I'm just excited about where we're at right now. Hopefully it all goes the best and really try to move 1 foot forward. I have a whole team to plan for me. I hire and I smile in front of the camera.
Just hitting refresh on the Board of Elections website. Are you that anxious? So you are doing that?
I called the Board of Elections today. I'm like, when are the results coming through? They said the 21st. They lied. It came out today. I'm like, all right, good job. Maybe I made a difference today.
Well, you still see. I mean, you're still holding that lead even with that new dump today as well. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Olewa. We'll be checking in with you. Thanks for coming back to the table. Appreciate it. Good to see you as always. All right. So some other races we're following right now as of Wednesday, June 17th. Preliminary results show Alyssa Silverman leading the race for the independent at-large council seat. So this was the special election to fill what was left of Kenyon McDuffie's term through the end of this year. He, of course, left his council seat to run for mayor. Rafael Sanchez-Cruz, he sat down with Silverman, who lost this very seat to McDuffie 4 years ago when she decided to jump in the race after he was booted from the race for Attorney General.
We need to defend our city from these deleterious impacts of Trump.
Alyssa Silverman outlining some of her priorities if she regains her seat on the D.C. Council.
One of my big agenda items is truancy. We need our kids back in school.
But what makes her potential return to the Wilson building different?
The 2.0 version of me is, even when it's a contentious issue, let's find the common ground on it. Let's not let it get personal. And let's, look to do the best public policy that, will benefit district residents and businesses here.
4 years ago, she lost her re-election to Kenyon McDuffie, who is now fighting to be the Democratic mayoral nominee.
Do you hold any hard feelings against Kenyon McDuffie?
If you hold on to grudges, the only person it impacts is you. And that's what I had to learn over these past few years, is to accept what happened, move on, and make sure it doesn't happen again.
All right, now let's take a look at the preliminary results for the Ward 1 council seat. A lot of people watching this one too. As of Wednesday, June 17th, Aparna Raj is leading that race with 46% of the vote. That seat is currently held by Brianna Doe, who decided not to seek another term. And for the Ward 5 council seat, the preliminary results show the incumbent Zachary Parker leading the race with around 77% of the vote. So it's looking like at this point that he's going to hold on to a seat. And for the Ward 6 council seat race, preliminary results show Charles Allen is leading the race with more than 74% of the vote. Once again, another incumbent likely holding on to their seat. And in the race for D.C. Attorney General, Brian Schwab is leading in the preliminary results with, this one's a clear winner here, with 90% of the votes right now. All right, so to break down more of these results with me, I have two special guests here at the table with me tonight. We have Howard Garrett, Chair of Ward 2 Dems, and Ruth Latois-Eiffel, Ward 7 Civic Leader. It's good to see both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Have you two rested? Have you gotten a little sleep in yet?
Absolutely not.
Just
still running. Partying too hard, huh?
My son graduated from the 8th grade today, so
big congratulations.
No
Where is he?
He's right over there.
We gotta give a major shout out. Come on, give a shout out to everybody. We love celebrating our young folks.
Say hi.
Say hi.
Squat a little bit. Oh. He's so tall.
Big congratulations.
Thanks, baby.
Yes, I mean, that's what these races are all about, our future, and making sure our city's in good hands for them. So first up, I want to get your take. I'll start with you, Ruth, on the race for mayor, where things stand. Did you expect there to be such a sizable lead here, this gap?
I mean, I think that we've been having conversations around there being a lead, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that the folks who have been doing political and analyzing, who tried to figure out what it would look like if she was number 2, That's what they focused on. So no one was really focused on, well, what happens if she edges out and won? And it wasn't even just an edge out. But last night at Howard Theater, it was like the feeling was palpable once the announcement came out about where the results stood. And I think people are excited.
Yeah, clearly we know who you support, Howard. Janice Lewis George, how did that come about? When did you decide that this was the candidate, this is who you wanted to be the city's next mayor?
I've been following Janice since she, as a council member. She's always put people first. She hasn't changed her messaging. And I'm excited about the vision that she's brought on this race, making sure that government works for the people, but most importantly, putting people first. And that energy transpired throughout the entire campaign. And as Ruth stated last night, the energy in the room was such an amazing feeling. And DC residents are ready for the next chapter and a mayor who's going to lead with the bold vision.
Yeah, so I know that you both, you study these campaigns, you pay very close attention to all the candidates, what's happening in the city at large. What do you make of where DC is right now, this political landscape, and what these results say about where we're heading?
I would say that the results are speaking for itself. Janice is in the lead, 16.4% over Kenyon. She led a race that she emphasized on a government working for the people, affordable housing, 76,000 bold vision with housing, people having access to childcare. She created a vision where people truly believed in and gave the roadmap and not just concepts of a plan. And that's why we are seeing the results of people ready for change after 12 years and wanting a mayor that is going to implement those changes.
Do you think this is a rebuke of Mayor Bowser's administration, or is it just that people want something new?
I think it's absolutely a rebuke. I think that, when all of the candidates who were supported by Mayor Bowser are not winning their races, are not showing to be winning their races, I think that the city is saying what they want to say. I think we have to listen. But I also think that there's more for us to figure out, right? All the mail-in ballots are not in. So we still need to dig down into precinct level data. We still need to dig down into what voter turnout was, especially in Ward 7 and Ward 8 east of the river, for us to know, well, who said it? Like, who is the one making the decisions about the votes? Who came out to vote? And what do we do? To be honest, there's a part of me that's extremely disappointed in multiple sectors, the government sector, philanthropic sector, the business sector, for not doing enough when it comes to voter turnout.
What do you mean?
In this
Like,
election.
how so?
Get out the vote. There were abysmal get out the vote efforts. I think that there could have been more done to get voter turnout to be higher. I know that ranked choice voting was an issue, but in this instance, I mean, at least for mayor, we didn't even necessarily have to go into the ranked choice voting process because of that first round. So we really could have had people less scared. And there were campaigns that ran on fear of ranked choice voting, and it ended up not even being a factor for the mayoral race. We're still waiting to see some of the other races, but it wasn't a factor. And I think that some of the candidates who are coming forward now, there's a lot of work to do. I think people are angry. I think people are hungry, and I don't mean that like ambitious, I mean literally hungry. And there are lots of deep, deep concerns, and we need people to be ready to go. And so I think the status right now is, hey, we're excited, let's stay excited. I know that Janice Lewis George is going to lead an amazing team, but people want to know, well, who's going to be on the team, right? I think that people want to know, what is next, especially for those races where Robert White has won. And so what's going to happen there with the Democratic State Committee? Who are they going to appoint? And so while we are excited, I think people are still anticipating, like, hey, what's next?
Do you share that same sentiment? I see you nodding a lot, Howard.
Yeah, I think people are excited, but there is always what's next. And I think that is the most exciting part about where we are right now. Is creating a government and making sure that our elected officials are working for the people.
Yes.
And I'm so excited that we have a mayor, we have an attorney general, we have now a delegate who's going to be on one accord and making sure that DC is protected from the federal government, but making sure that DC residents have the resources that it needs to be successful, to be able to afford a home, to be able to live where they work, their kid have childcare. And I think over the next several weeks, months, we will be able to see what kind of vision and the path that DC is going to be taking forward.
Yeah, we know that President Trump was a big factor in this election. What can a city's new mayor do? We know that the federal government has such power, such control over this city. In some cases, Mayor Bowser seemed to imply that her hands were tied. So what could this new mayor do to fight back against what has been perceived as a hostile federal government and White House?
I think Janice has stated very clearly that she will have to work with the White House to make sure for housing, land transfers, and utilizing the resources from the federal government. But she also emphasized that she's going to protect DC residents, and she's going to use every legal opportunity with the Attorney General to discuss what needs to be done to ensure that we are protected. And I'm excited about that because when we've used those tools in the past, we saw the federal government stand down, and we have to take full advantage of that to make sure that people are safe in their communities and that they're not being snatched off the streets by ICE or being attacked because of their sex or whatever the case may be. We need a mayor that is going to stand firm and not waver on the protection of DC residents, and we have that in Janice.
So people will not be upset if they see Janice Lewis-George, if she's the winner here, heading to the White House for a meeting with the president?
We should not be, no.
Okay.
I don't think that people should be upset at all. I mean, I think that, you got to see her. You're going to have to see her. And I think that's more of the tone. Like, yeah, I'm on my way there. Like, you're going to have to see me. But I do think that this was also another, fear. Trump was another fear tactic used in this scenario. We actually do want someone to fight. So we're not willing to accept someone who's going to acquiesce ahead of time, especially because we already saw what happened last summer, right? And so, I have some, hesitation around what it looks like for the Guard to be here. But I think that we always knew that it was potentially going to happen. It's Trump's big birthday or whatever, and it's also the 250th anniversary of our country. And so I think that he always anticipated trying to bring the Guard here. And I think we should be prepared to do something about it instead of saying, well, if Janice Lewis-George wins, then the Guard is going to come. The Guard came already with someone who was potentially partnering, with the administration to see what they could do. So we need to be prepared. We need to have a plan. We need to move forward together. And I also just, I have a critique of, national news stations not actually covering what's going on in DC. They very much, could be leaning into what's happening here at the DC feed or anything so that other people in the United States know what's happening in DC, not just what's happening. When they say what's happening in Washington, they're not talking about us, right? They're talking about the federal administration and what the federal administration, the impact that has on the United States. They're not talking about, though, how we actually need all of the United States to work together with us in order for us to be successful. So while Janice Lewis-George is going to go down to the White House and have a conversation, that's great, but we also need Robert White and others to be rallying the entire Democratic Party to ensure that we don't have kids who are being shot by police or by federal troops. I was stopped in the car with my husband and my son, on the way to drop my husband off to his second job, his night job. And it was scary. And I know what to do, and I was raised right, and I'm in all the organizing circles and all of that, and it still did not stop us from our nerves being shook.
Traumatizing.
It's traumatizing. And it was right outside of my neighborhood, right? Like, I'm in my own neighborhood being stopped by people who I don't know, will never see again, and who treated me poorly. So I think there's a there where we can't, because we don't have the rights that we should have, we actually do need more of a rallying cry that's national so that we can get support from other cities and states to stand up with us.
Roughly 30 seconds left. Howard, what would be your message to voters as we watch all of this play out for the next couple of days?
Be ready for change. Be excited for change. It's okay to be scared of the unknown, but just trust the process, trust the vision, and know that we have a mayor that truly has our back and will put people first.
Okay, we're going to remember this conversation. It's good to catch up with you both.
It's good to see you.
Go and get some rest, okay?
Okay, thanks so much.
All right, thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Howard. All right, so we are tracking every vote and breaking down the biggest races until the final ballot is counted. You can find the latest results right now on the WUSA 9 app. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to WUSA9.com for a full breakdown of every race and the current vote count. All right, now let's talk about a few high notes in the city this weekend. First up, the Juneteenth holiday is this Friday, and there are several celebrations across the district. There's a Wellness Weekend celebration at Franklin Park. That is on the 19th and 20th from 9 a.m. until noon. And the Juneteenth Freedom Ride is happening on Friday, starting at Reservoir Park. It's a 16K ride to the African American History and Culture Museum. That's from 10 a.m. until noon. And we are celebrating Pride Month here in the nation's capital. The Capitol Pride Parade is this Saturday. One of this year's Grand Marshals is a DC native using her platform to elevate trans visibility and acceptance. You may recognize Monroe from the Chai on Showtime and P Valley I said that right, I think, right? I'm sure my producer's going to correct me in a minute. She says celebrating the LGBTQ community in her hometown is especially meaningful.
I started my service work in Washington, D.C. And so, to come back and be able to see a lot of the people in the community that I served and to have fun and just really embrace and celebrate and exist and resist and have the audacity to live boldly and out loud with the people that I grew up with. And, it's always good to come home. It just feels I'm overjoyed.
USA 9 is your home for all things Capitol Pride. This week, we're going to be live streaming DC's Capitol Pride Parade on the WUSA 9 app this Saturday. I'll be there, and we'll kick things off starting at 2 p.m. through the last float at 5 p.m. And as DC gears up for a busy summer, U.S. Attorney for DC Jeanine Pirro says law enforcement is stepping up its efforts. Today, she announced a major drug bust following a years-long investigation. Pirro says more large-scale operations are already in the works this summer.
This investigation also marks the FBI's kickoff of the Summer Heat initiative to crush violent crime in DC. Citizens may see the FBI out on the streets overtly as part of the DC Safe and Beautiful Task Force.
That is what we can expect in the days ahead. On a lighter note now, a big event happening this weekend. Mr. We Fit Adventures Invasion of the Sugar Monster at Sycamore and Oak in Southeast DC. And joining me now is Mr. We Fit himself, Joe Houston.
How you doing,
Lorenzo? My guy, it's good to see
you.
you.
Good to see you as well.
All right, so tell us about this happening this weekend. You're trying to get the little ones fit and ready, huh?
Yeah, man. Mr. We Fit Adventures Invasion of the Sugar Monster is an immersive hero live experience where combining storytelling, imagination, fitness, and this is an opportunity where kids can be heroes and challenges, and we also will have like a showdown performance as well, because I had that like theater background.
So why is this so important to you? Why get the kids involved in this?
Yeah, absolutely. So a goal is to me because, we have a lot of senior programs and things like that, but the little ones, we look over them and they always like eating candy and things, and it's not a limit. And from a lot of parents, we hear that traditions and what you used to do when you was a kid, but that don't mean it's right.
Right.
So my goal is to reimagine how wellness and fitness look for kids, but making it don't it sound pretty cool that a kid, if you connect adventure and wellness together, it seemed like a kid would want to continue to do that and make it fun.
I love the theater component in this as well, because you got to get kids interested, especially when you talk about the storytelling. Because when we were younger, you put broccoli in front of us or carrot or talk about why it's good for you. You're like, I don't care about that, but it is so important, especially when you talk about your well-being and good health. So I know that you were anticipating about 100.
Yeah,
kids to be involved in this originally?
Originally, when I was calling out looking for like sponsors, the people that wanted to sponsor the event, I was only looking for 100 kids. Like that was a goal, and the response I got from the community, we almost at like 600 RSVP.
Almost at 600 now. That is crazy.
Yes.
Are you ready for that?
I'm really ready. We at Sycamore and Oak, obviously we have the space for it. So, and then being an expert in doing a lot of fitness activation. So, now having like a world with kids, I'm really excited. I had the kids at my gym yesterday, and just to see them just wild and go crazy, I just love it.
Yeah. Why is it so critical when we talk about East of the River and bringing this to young kids throughout the city?
Yeah, it's extremely important because we know the social detriments that we go through in regards to the wellness gap and things like that. So I think it's highly essential for, working with the kids, especially since Majority Ward 8 is like the youngest ward, I believe, in regards to youth. And we just need to engage them in more like wellness programming and things like that, and work with credible people that works in that space to actually help them.
Yeah, so give us a run through. So we're looking at the flyer here for folks who want more information, and perhaps, is it too late to register?
No, not at all.
Okay, so maybe we can get 700, 800, really overwhelm you?
We'll love that, we'll love that.
What does it look like? Give us a run through of what the day is gonna be like.
Sure, so 10 o'clock when people come, check in, we looking to start literally at 10 o'clock, 10:10. I'm gonna do a welcome speech, welcome everybody. So it'll be like in a format of like an amusement park or a museum. When you go, you can experience and immersive, you can engage. So it'll be different zones. We'll have zone leaders where the kids, you'll have like a power zone, you have a balance zone, you have a speed zone. So they can basically go through the obstacles and have fun and challenge it. Then eventually the Sugar Monster come. He invades. And now it's this showdown performance between Mr. We Fit and the Sugar Monster. And all the heroes, what they learn through those hero training, become heroes, and they help Mr. We Fit defeat the Sugar Monster.
I love that.
Yeah.
And we got to combat sugar because you know all
Yes.
the kids love sugar, but
Yeah.
we know that too much of it can,
Too
can be
much
bad.
of anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about Mr. We Fit.
Yes.
Like obviously that is part of this storyline.
Yes.
And you want kids to get to know Mr. We Fit as well, and you are a figure.
Yeah,
in the community.
absolutely. Always having that little like big superhero mindset
Yeah.
as a kid. I always wanted to be a hero. So now like really living that and kids actually like believing I'm a superhero. I'm in certain schools and these kids honestly believe that I'm a superhero because I believe that I'm a superhero.
Yeah.
So I wear that with a badge of honor. It started in regards of my vision, in regards of just being an advocate, in regards of like wanting wellness and opportunities in Ward 7 and 8.
Yeah.
But it's not just about Ward 7 and 8. It's poverty and people having issues, health issues in all types of families, all types of the world. Like when we talk about black and brown, Mr. Weefit just don't serve black and brown. That's a starting point.
Yeah.
But you know, white, Asian, we want to serve all kids because we can connect with all kids.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate about the work you're doing because every time we talk about being healthy and physically fit, we talk about the outside,
Yeah.
but a lot of people don't focus on the inside, mental health, the whole package, and that's what you're all about. Joe Houston, Mr. We Fit.
Yes.
My guy. Good to see you.
Yes.
Thanks for being at the table. I appreciate
Thank
you.
I appreciate it.
All right, so on that note, what a show, huh? An hour of fun. That does it for the DC Beat. As you know, everyone has a seat at this table. Thank you for giving me some of your time. Truly the greatest gift. I'll see you back here next Wednesday.